back together again.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
and this time, it's personal.
You know we have events to plan? Why do we keep doing this?
I don't know. The people love it, apparently. Drive! Go!
Oh, man, it is a beautiful day out, man. You ready?
Yeah. Anthony Magnabosco spends a lot of time in Austin.
Yeah, but he's a really nice guy. I'm pretty good with it. Come on, let's go.
To the phone lines!
All right,
hello and welcome!
It's March 17th, 2019, Season 3, Episode 11. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Jamie Boone.
And oh my goodness, man, we are getting things ready for next weekend.
Oh my gosh, Eric, what is next weekend?
Next weekend?
I have not heard yet.
Next weekend, we are going to be celebrating the first International Atheist Day. And actually, we put together a video, and I'm really proud of it. So let's see if we can throw that up really quick. Around the world, secular groups are gathering this March to celebrate the first International Atheist Day. While we encourage atheist groups to come together and celebrate, we invite you to join us. Because lacking religion does not constitute hate. Because in many parts of the world, disbelief can have tragic consequences. Because it's time to create an international community. Because where we can be counted, we should. Yeah. Stand up this March 23rd and join us as we demand to be counted. Damn, I like that.
Boom.
Right?
I do too, but I've just realized something
What's up?
that I'm going to say about that video that I don't think you're going to like.
What's up?
And also, I don't think it makes that much sense. For whatever reason, I was reminded of the Beethoven series from my childhood with the large dog.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, I just heard, Beethoven, 17. The dog is an atheist.
Oh my God.
And it's like, this is such a weird thought. I absolutely have to share this.
This summer.
It can't be only in here.
In a world. Yeah.
In a world where dogs become sentient and intelligent.
Well,
they're like, what the F humans? Of course not.
All right. So Jamie's back and on form, and I'm really happy you're back, man. So got a couple other quick announcements before we hop into
Knock 'em out.
our stuff. As always, we are going to be thanking our top 5 patrons on the air about 2/3 of the way through the show. If you would like to become a patron, I'm sorry. Let me redirect your attention to, at the bottom of the screen, it says atheistdayaustin.com. If you want to know more about Atheist Day coming up on Saturday, go to atheistdayaustin.com.
Yeah.
There are no tickets. Come over, show up, hang out, meet us all. It's going to be friggin' amazing. And
it is.
We're really excited. Yes, and you know what? We've been getting emails from people saying that they're flying in from all over the world to come see this.
I know. The pressure
I'm really excited,
is on for
right?
this event to be completely godless.
I think we can do that.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I think everywhere at every point in time has completely done that. So,
all right. Jamie is in top form today.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say was, if you'd like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. Our producer, Mark, is on point today. Mark, you're amazing. If you want to donate as little as $1 an episode, that's what keeps us going. And that's that's what empowers us to not only keep the lights on and do other shows, but do awesome events like Atheist Day Austin.
Yes.
Other things that we're able to do now is we're able to have a magazine, which the newest issue is out. Boom. Right? So definitely check it out. I'm really excited about it. Chris Donlin knocked it out of the park like he always does. We have an amazing team of writers, our editor, everyone. We're really stoked about it. Let's
not forget the man that makes their collaboration and effort possible, our director of communications.
Yep.
Yeah. I know that you can't thank yourself because that's not
weird.
how that works.
It's weird. And then after Atheist Day, things are going to be picking up. Let's see. I'm going to be at Faithless Forum, and I believe you are going to be as well. I'm going to be paneling, but people can come and see us at Faithless Forum in Dallas. And then after that, we're going to be at the American Atheist Convention doing a live show on the main stage. So if you want to go to the American Atheist Convention, it is April 19th to the 21st, I believe. And I believe tickets are still on sale, so check it out because it is going to be a lot of fun. We had so much fun last year.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun again. Fun on a bun. Sorry if you avoid calories. It's worth it.
Yes.
It will be Talk Heathen, it will be Atheist Experience, and it'll be a convention. So we'll be hanging around. The hosts of Atheist Experience will be hanging around, and all the other guests that they have that I haven't bothered to memorize because that's not our event.
That's okay. Last time, Jamie and I spent most of the time at the bar. So if you're out there, come find us.
That was good.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
My favorite, well, whatever.
And then after that, I have a personal bit because in the week after American Atheist Convention, I believe, a little over a week on May 2nd.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be going out to Rogers State University to do my first debate.
What?
Yep, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really, really excited about that. Got so much coming up, man.
Yeah.
But with that said, I think it's time to move on to callers. What do you think?
I think you are correct.
All right, let's start with Ryan in Des Moines. Ryan, you helped us test the phone lines. You're talking to Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
Hey, pretty good.
Good. What did you want to talk about?
So the thing I wanted to talk about was whether it is immoral or not to hold a belief without evidence.
I guess it depends on the belief.
Yeah.
What belief are you talking about?
Well, let me give you some backstory that kind of made me interested in this topic.
Okay.
So in Des Moines, I'm like a member of like a 12-step fellowship. And a lot of the people there are like, spiritual and not religious and stuff. And me and some of my friends like to kind of have debates about that kind of stuff because I'm an atheist and they're not. And a lot of times it always kind of comes down to their justification for believing in a God or whatever is it brings them comfort.
Okay.
And I mean, at least in that situation, I would not hold a belief because it's comforting. But I heard a interesting argument that, if someone is like really scared of like going on dates with girls and like he just thinks like, man, I'm never going to go on a date because all my experience is it goes terrible. Like I get really nervous and like it just doesn't work. But if the guy can convince himself that, the girl likes him before he even goes, he'll be more confident and comfortable and maybe it'll work. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, just as a side note, as long as the result of him thinking that is confident and comfortable and not, oh man, she's totally into me no matter what she says, just as a quick side note, because that's kind of a trope.
Yeah. I mean...
So to be clear, this reminds me that professional athletes are kind of nefarious for believing in woo and pseudoscience and all kinds of things. I think it's Federer. It's some professional tennis player chews on a blade of the grass that he's about to play on beforehand as like a pre-game ritual, right? So that, like the rituals that you do, your lucky socks. I'm less inclined to talk to you about how that's irrational because as a person that enjoys casually playing sports or whatever and realizes that I play better when, I've got my head in the game, I understand the sort of rituals you might go through to get that going and like building up your confidence of like, yeah, no, I'm like Fabio or whatever to psych yourself up for a date. I feel like the point at which a belief, whether it's held for good reasons or bad, is dangerous and its morality should be considered is the degree to which it affects the person's actions and the world around them. So if his belief, like I said, is, oh, she's definitely into me, I know she's saying no, I know she's threatening a restraining order, but I believe that she's still into me, then you have a very serious problem that no one really can contest. But if he's psyching himself up like, yeah, no, I'm confident, I'm suave, whatever, even if they're wearing dirty clothes when they go to the date.
Well, touching on the morality of it. Whether or not a thing is true is definitely different from whether or not it is moral, right? And so what I would say is make sure you're understanding the world to the best of your ability, right? And make sure that knowledge of the world comports to reality to the best that you can. That said, those moral judgments are not necessarily tied to it. And I can imagine actually a wild situation, right? Let's say I am unable to empathize with people. And so the only thing actually keeping me from committing murder is thinking that, one of the books on my shelf tells me not to, or my stuffed teddy bear says, that's why I shouldn't kill. That would be me making a moral action for bad reasons, but it's still moral. It's kind of a weird gray area. So tying those together, I think that if you want to really get as close to objective moral as possible, then I would say that you do need to have an understanding of the world and make sure that understanding closely matches reality. That way you can be able to actually make those value judgments, right? If you don't have that, then making those value judgments may be far more difficult. So I'd go from there.
So it still seems kind of strange to me to lie to yourself about something and feel okay about doing that.
I feel like so here's what I would say is it depends on your ethics. So I don't think that this question was ever posed or directly addressed by Kant, but if you have Kantian never lie ethics, then presumably that includes lying to yourself. But if you have ethics that allow lying, that hold that lying can be permissible for good reasons, then your next step is to evaluate whether or not, providing yourself confidence before a date or getting your head in the game to play tennis is a good reason.
Yeah,
then actually that brings up an interesting question as far as whether or not how much the fact that you are the recipient of that lie changes the morality because you're not acting on someone else. It's an interesting question.
I don't know. I definitely think that, morals don't always come into it. I don't think there's a way to morally lie to yourself, but you could make poor decisions based, you can make poor and immoral decisions based on that. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other in the best case.
Right.
But I hope that helps. I mean, and to be honest, the way that you want to approach the world really totally depends on you. I would say that if you feel uncomfortable and nervous and you are pretending to be a different person, then you're probably going to disappoint the date when they find out that you were not being authentic. Mm-hmm. Right? So
you're not 6'1".
Be your authentic self, because that's the way you're going to attract somebody who's going to stick with you, because you're not lying about who you are.
Okay.
Honesty is the best policy.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the only way that I've been able to get dates is somebody directly coming up and saying, I'm interested in you and I want to go on.
Yeah.
Because
it's sort of, you're not as bad as Heath, but
no, but I have to put on this veil. I don't ever want my status as being somebody on the show or someone from the ACA to ever interact, and so I just don't interact that way at all. And so it's just been kind of difficult, but it is what it is.
I have that problem as well because I don't dedicate a lot of time to going out, meeting people, and then it's like, oh, okay, do online dating. It's like, what do I say I do with my time, given that most of it is this. And like, oh, I'm the president of a thing and a co-host of a blah.
Yeah.
Look at how awesome I am. Just feels.
Yeah, then again, you're asking dating advice from two single people, so we might be totally fucking wrong, dude. I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt.
Sure.
I have dating someone that's in Canada. Or they're going to Canada.
Her name is Alberta. Go ahead.
She lives in Vancouver.
I love you, Jamie. All right.
So actually, well, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna move on. Ryan, if there's nothing else, I think we're gonna move on to the next call.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Take care, buddy.
Yeah. It's a good call. I like that, and I would desperately like you haven't hung up on the.
Oh. Thank you, Jamie.
And I would desperately like that to be a topic of conversation in the Talk Heathen Reddit. Actually.
Ooh, that would be a really good topic for
because
Reddit.
It sort of,
if you want to go to reddit.com/r/talkheathen.
Because my ability to refer to philosophical resources on the fly is much more limited than my ability to research them with a computer. Let's get the next call.
Yeah, let's move on to George in Chicago. George, you're talking to Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, before we jump into the call, I do want to say we have 2 lines open. If anybody's watching and is a believer, has
We have 3 lines open.
Oh, we just freed one up, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 lines open. Give us a call, 512-686-0279, or you can visit any of our social media posts and click the link to call in via the computer or whatever. If you're a believer, now's the time to call in because we definitely want to talk to you. George, sorry about that. What did you want to talk to us about?
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with religion and how it affected sort of my social circle. I come from a devout sort of Catholic background.
All right.
And my folks, my father is actually a Pentecostal, diehard Pentecostal.
Oh man!
And he's got a PhD in theology. And so, as a young kid, I was somewhat abused. To discipline me, he would go to extreme lengths and then quote the Bible.
Yeah.
So
Spare not correction, or
I beg your pardon?
Spare not correction from a child, sort of thing?
Yeah, he would say that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So, despite all this,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, despite all the background I've had with religion, my question to you guys is, do you guys believe that 9/11 was a religious sort of campaign against the country, or do you think that the U.S. government was,
George,
completely to blame for this? Yes.
That is a hard left turn, man. As soon as you said, do you think that 9/11? I had my finger hovering over the drop button.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh, don't be a troll. Don't do it. Don't do it to me. Okay.
No, I'm not trolling you guys. I just want to give.
No, I got you. I got you.
I
got you.
Yeah. I just want to know.
So
from a perspective, go ahead.
So first off, in the notes it says that you're a new atheist, right? So
Congratulations!
Yeah, woo!
Welcome to the club.
I think this kind of question definitely indicates that you're probably looking at critical thinking techniques, right? And how you look at the world and determine whether or not something is true or not. Those epistemological, frameworks that you're setting up. Does that sound about right? You're kind of trying to determine one from the other.
No. Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say is, as a new atheist, a lot of my people around me have pretty much shunned me away in a way.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. So I'm sorry if I got into the 9/11 thing. I just wanted to know.
No, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know.
What made it amazing is that you aren't a troll.
Because I tell people all the time, like, listen, Islam is made up. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I tell people all the time, like, Catholicism is made up, Islam is all made up. And, I feel like a lot of the media is really, they have a narrative to sort of pile this religious like garbage sort of zealots on us to make us believe that, that these people are the enemies. So that's the only reason why I brought up 9/11
Sure.
and the whole Islam thing and
So,
just the religion in general in this country, the whole narrative.
yeah.
It's just
Well, let's kind of look back at it, right? I think the first thing that I would say is the vast majority of people, and I would go so far as to say that in my day-to-day interactions, I would assume that the vast majority of people are interacting in an honest way, right? And so if someone has this narrative in their minds of, whatever the case is, be it religion or be it, conspiracy or things like that, they believe it most of the time.
Yeah.
And so the idea that an organization would be so conspiracy-minded as to report on things that they know are false to change the minds of the public would be a vast, far-reaching, and very tenuous conspiracy. And the fact that we are 19 years into it, I would say that you can pretty reasonably, come to the conclusion that they were doing the best that they could. And if the evidence points somewhere else, then that's the time to reevaluate that evidence. But I would think that being generous in the way that you understand and talk to somebody is the best way to go about it. And I would say that's true for most things.
I just feel like when you speak out nowadays as a person coming up in today's society, I feel like if you speak your opinion without really disrespecting anyone, then you really cast upon as a person that's like, completely crazy or,
it depends.
I may say, hey, just because I may say, hey, Jewish rabbis, they want to suck baby's cock at when they're 7 days old and they die of herpes. Well, there is data behind this.
I would say that
not to make that kind of a statement, no.
Yeah, I would say that mohels perform circumcisions may be a less aggressive way of stating that, but certainly that is a issue of public concern.
Yeah, and the traditional method of ripping the foreskin with the teeth is not something that is done very often. And so it's not. It was a thing a long time ago and really, really, really intense, Jewish communities.
It does happen today in the United States.
It does, but that's not the primary way that they do it. And so I would say that if you were to make that statement, number one, you're saying that they want to perform sexual, on a child. That's not an accurate representation. Number two, the representation is one that we have examples of, but it's not one that fits with the norm, and that's definitely not something I would say because it's just, number one, it's not true, and number two, it's making people not listen to you, right? Because if you're saying things like that, why would people come to you as a resource?
Yeah.
Right? It's just not true.
Right.
Now, the fact that it has happened before, yes. And you can point that out and say, hey, there have been cases of sexually transmitted infections, being transmitted through this process, in these cases. But stay away from the all or nothings and definitely don't misrepresent them just because you saw a minority do it, a minority of the group do it.
Right. Also, I wanted to certainly, I agree with you. Because people, they already, people are very smart in their personal lives. I believe that people are very intelligent, very brilliant. Some people go to Ivy League schools. Some people make 6, 7, 8 figures, 9 figures, and they have this concept about religion that really tweaks everything else. It pretty much supersedes everything else. Logic, reasoning, everything is out of this. It's out of the question when you deal with, I guess, when I talk to certain people about this sort of topic,
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know, like, maybe I went about it wrong talking about Jewish rabbis and how they the aesthetic community sort of deals with. And, I could point that about every religion, Hinduism, all of it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I will say is, while religion is, I think, the most common and most widespread example of these kinds of flaws in thinking that people stick to, there's a great tradition of humanity with religion to stick to it despite anything else, right? The scientific method, the scientific process, modern science is very, very new. It's not even really, it's about as old as the United States, which is also very, very young as a country. And so that in our education system is failing everyone. So skepticism and critical thinking aren't really taught. And so what I would say is, while religion is a good example of times when otherwise intelligent and discerning people don't use their critical thinking in a way that they would apply their critical thinking to, to anything else, right, that they're critical of, there are people that buy woo and nonsense, and there are people that, in some ways, people in this community often ask, oh, why are there still Catholics? Why are there still Catholics? But that's not a surprise to me, because there's still Patriot fans. I mean, to be very clear, there's an extreme difference in what the Patriots and Belichick did and what the Catholic Church has done. However, no, of course not. It's very much humans evolved as social and, to that degree, tribal creatures. So don't come after my tribe, bruh, is a kind of natural response.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the same way that Eric will always insist and has said that he will die on the hill of how to pronounce the abbreviation for graphics interchange format.
It's GIF. GIF is a peanut butter.
All right, and that definitely needs to be a separate topic in the Reddit, because the arguments back and forth about that on the internet are amazing, and he should at least have experts in the field specifically how to pronounce that.
It's not my fault that he's wrong, okay? So whatever.
Anyway,
George.
I wanted to cycle back to the first point you meant, which is that when you bring up religion, you didn't say it in exactly these words, but people take that as an attack on someone. And I think that if someone told you, oh, my favorite movie is Prometheus, and you responded by saying, that crappy thing, let me point out to you all of the effing reasons why it's a terrible movie. I don't know why I'm self-censoring, but let me point out all the reasons why Prometheus is a terrible piece of trash of a movie and a waste of your time or whatever. This is a hypothetical, but the point is that movie is very meaningful to them, and actually they're having that as their favorite movie doesn't impact the larger world around them. And they would take offense at you saying the movie is trash, even though you're not saying anything about them. The same sort of reaction happens when you're speaking to someone and you bring up, hey, I don't think that you have a good reason to bring up religion, and look at the harm it does. Because for an individual, in general, the specific origins of the universe are less meaningful than this is my tribe, this is a meaningful thing that I do in my life. And so that's why when you bring up religion, it's taken as a personal attack. For example, when I brought up, no, the Patriots cheated, and I don't think that that should go unreviewed as far as the thing they won, I'm coming to an end. The friend that I had, who is a critical thinker and intelligent and a good friend of mine, responded, and I'm quoting, "fuck you." So...
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Texas, so it's football and people get heated. But the point is, yeah, people find things meaningful and they take offense, and that's a problem.
It is. Don't feed into it. Now, you can absolutely bring up things that are true, and you should. You should hold people to account for bad ideas. Just remember that people are deserving of respect, not ideas. Mm-hmm. So when you say, that rabbis, did you say want to suck baby dick?
No.
I said
that they perform. No, I said that they perform an old ritual, and after this, you can go onto YouTube and check it out.
Oh, no. I know that, but those aren't the words that you said.
Yeah.
Specifically, what I'm saying is when you do that, you're talking about a person. You're not talking about an idea. And that's wrong.
Yeah.
We don't want people to do that to us. We don't do that to them.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I'm just being graphic about it because, this is the show and, whatever,
That's understood. As far as the rest is concerned, when it comes to 9/11 and conspiracy theories,
certainly,
follow the evidence. Don't start with your conclusion.
Yeah.
I mean,
try.
That's where you go. And the fact is, if the response that you're getting is conspiracy, look into what it takes to make a conspiracy work. Because the odds of that are very, very difficult. And for a conspiracy to work, very few people need to be involved. And there are times when we have uncovered conspiracies. This, I don't believe, is one of them. The evidence just stacks up way too high. 9/11, Jamie.
Yeah, sorry, I was sort of like, how is it a conspiracy to perform circumcisions? But
no,
9/11.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. Okay. George, I think we're going to move on to the next caller, but this has been good.
Right.
Has it been good?
Excellent.
All right, take care. All right, we're going to move on to Wes in San Diego. Wes, you're talking to Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
How you doing?
Doing all right. You've called before, haven't you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey. Yeah, I was just listening. It was really interesting. I am a believer. I believe in God. I believe God created everything.
Okay.
Me, you, everybody. And I don't understand why people are atheists because, I'll take that back. I do understand, but when you look at the world around you, it's like, really? You think this was one big giant accident?
No.
It just feels like
Wes,
it's just too many things.
who told you that everything's a big giant accident? Did
Like
somebody at your
people
church
like
tell you? Because I didn't.
People like Neil deGrasse Tyson and people like that.
No, I've watched Neil deGrasse Tyson. He hasn't said it's a big giant accident. That sounds like a misrepresentation of our position.
He said it was a big, beautiful accident. To get closer to what he said, and I just feel like that doesn't make any sense. Like it just feels like someone.
There's a line of thinking, and I'd like to explain it a bit to you to see if this will help. Okay. So, do you know what a fallacy is?
You know what the what is?
A fallacy?
Yes.
Okay. You know that if you believe something for a fallacious reason, it doesn't mean you're wrong, but it means the logic that you used to get there does not necessarily lead to truth. Okay? So when you said, just look at everything around you, that's the argument from incredulity, right? I don't understand how it could be any other way. Therefore, my conclusion is true, right? And the reason why it's fallacious is because I can actually plug in anything. I have a book. I haven't brought it out in a while, the Book of Eric. And, let me grab it.
There it is.
Yeah. In this book, it says that I am God and that I created the universe. Right? Look at the trees. Look outside. How can it be any other way? So how is that different from your argument?
Well, I would say that here's the thing. The Bible in its entirety has not been released to the public.
How did you come to this knowledge?
Well, actually, can you specify what you mean by the Bible in its entirety has not been released to the public? Do you mean there are books being held in the Vatican secret files, archives, or?
I'm trying to go a little less specific.
Well, it's not that serious. It's just some books have been taken out. For example, the Book of Enoch has been taken out. That goes more into the angels and what happened after they fell,
Sure.
fell to earth.
I really don't care about the Bible. You have to actually show me that there's a reason for me to care about the Bible in the first place. Is there a reason for me to care about the Bible in the first place?
Yes.
Why?
You should care about the Bible because it was made for you.
How do you know that?
I know that because yes, the Bible was written by men, but it was inspired by God.
Okay, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Well, you just gotta have faith. Some things you just gotta have faith.
Hold on. What is faith and why is that useful?
Faith is useful because it shows that here's the thing. When you have faith, that's more powerful than just that's more powerful. It shows that you're willing to believe. Like you're willing to even though it may not seem like, oh, well, that's impossible. Even though you can't see it, but you know it's there. Like
okay, how can you determine whether or not something is true or false with faith? It sounds like what you're saying is that there's this big important thing that isn't tied to evidence, because I can believe a thing without having faith in it, right? I can test it and find out. I'm sorry?
Yeah, you're right. You can believe in something without having faith.
So what good is faith? I mean, is there any other circumstance that you would use faith for?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
You need faith. You need faith to believe in the Bible. I understand that.
I agree. Wes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think you do need faith to believe in the Bible, because I would define faith as accepting something is true without good evidence. Now, why the fuck would I do that?
You would do that because here's the thing. It's going to seem like it will seem like foolishness to someone who doesn't read the Bible. I understand.
Whoa, Wes, hold on. Are you saying that I don't read the Bible? Sorry, Jamie, but this is kind
you're
of...
good. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, this is my jammy jams. Really?
Yes.
Okay, I have my Bible right here.
And he doesn't mean the Book of Eric this time. He means...
No, and I also actually have read multiple versions, right? I've read the King James Version, I've read the NIV, and I've read the ESV.
NIV? Okay.
Right?
And the what?
English Standard Version.
Yeah.
I've read New International, English Standard, and King James. Right? Not only that, but I was a believer. I've done Bible study as a religious person and not as a religious person. Please go on and tell me that it's impossible for me to understand because I don't read the Bible.
Here's the thing. Just reading the Bible, you have to understand the Bible. Just reading it doesn't mean you're going to you have to understand what you're reading. So, it isn't just reading.
Is that true for anything else?
Let me ask you a question. What made you turn away from God? What made you turn away from being a believer?
So it wasn't me turning away. I looked very, very carefully. I studied for years. I studied other religions. I studied, and I looked into why people have faith in things. And in the end, it just wasn't supported. I mean, people were saying things that were just not true. And as I looked into it, I realized that the confidence that I'd put in the legitimacy of the Bible was misplaced, because there was no good reason for me to believe it in the first place. That was very hard, and it took a very long time for me to understand and accept. But when I came to that acceptance, I came to a whole lot of other conclusions about the world I live in, leading me to where I am now. So why would you turn away from God? If there was a God, I want to know as many true things and as few false things as possible. So why would I turn away from a thing that is true? Right? Well, if there's evidence for God, then I should be convinced by it, right?
Well, God can't turn away from you. You can turn away from God, but God can't turn away from you. God is inside. God is in you. He's in me.
Gross.
He's in all of us. A part of him is in all of us.
Wes, how are you saying that as a conclusion? I mean, I can just spout out a whole bunch of stuff too, and unless I back it up, why would you even care? right? I can say all of those things about my book, right? I am the deity, and in my religion, of the Book of Eric, right? There's a God-shaped hole, right? And since I am your God, I'm just waiting for you to find me, and it breaks my heart every day that you don't.
Okay, what have you read in the Bible? What do you remember reading in the Bible?
As much as
you
possible.
Read all the different versions, right?
Yeah.
What do you remember? What verse do you remember that stands out?
Oh man, there are a shit ton. I mean, I can go to my favorite verse as a kid. Let's see. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him shall not perish but have eternal life. I can go to my favorite verse as an atheist, which is 2 Corinthians 13:11, I believe.
I think you mean 2 Corinthians?
2 Corinthians, thank you, Jamie. And that one is, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I played as a child, I thought as a child. And when I became a man, I put away childish things.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, I can go through verse by verse with you. I can open my Bible and study it with you. But I don't think that it's true, and I don't think there's anything good to be had from it that I couldn't gain from any other fiction book. The question is, why are you holding that book up and trying to support thinking that it's true without any evidence, without any good reason?
Can I ask you something about atheism?
No, I'd like you to answer this first.
Answer his question first, and then...
Okay. He said, why would I...
why would you...
hold it on to...
Yeah, why would you support saying the Bible is true without any good reason? You're not doing it for other books. So why this one?
Because this one was made for us. It was made for us to understand.
Wes, let me help bridge this a little bit. That's what you believe, right? You believe that this is words inspired by God and that it was made for us. But Eric is asking, why do you believe that the Bible is inspired by God and that Christianity is the one true faith, etc.?
I believe it because it just makes the most sense to me. It makes the most sense that a creator made the world that we live in, that it was designed by creator.
Okay, so to be clear, I can't think of a specific example, but when we're going through life, right, presumably there have been times where we've come across a question, what is that? What is the reason that this happened, et cetera? And I come across things like that all the time, and when I don't have a lot of information, I generally end up in the position where I have to say, I don't know what that is or why it happened. Is that something that you have found yourself doing in other situations?
Well, some things are out of your control, and that's okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if we don't have sufficient information to reach a conclusion, we shouldn't. Do you think that in general that is the way that you feel about holding conclusions? Right, like.
No, I feel like here's the thing. Even if I'm wrong, okay, let's say I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. All right, let's say there's no God, there's no Heavenly Father. All of it's garbage, right? All of it is there's no God. All right.
Yeah.
And you're right. Then it doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Wes.
Your life matters, and the way that you live it matters.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yes, it does, Wes, and I'll tell you why. Because we are right now fighting legislation that is absolutely trying to take away rights from Americans, from individuals. We see legislation. We see people being killed for disbelief in other countries. Not because, I mean, that's enough of a reason. People being murdered for being gay. I mean, yes, there's a really huge cost to being that wrong. Aren't you concerned with that? And no, dude. I mean, there are a whole bunch of others, right? Because your belief is just as likely as someone who believes in Islam, as somebody who believes in, any, religion, right? If that's the case, then you'd probably wind up going to any of their hells. I mean, isn't there a good reason to want to know what's true?
It's not the same because
It's not the same.
Those gods don't talk about love.
So
who cares? Your God can be an asshole and still be true. I mean, why does that matter? Because it makes you feel good? It makes me feel good when I say, I am God. Does that make it true?
Well, no, because...
So why is it true for you? Don't we all have to share the same truth, Wes?
It's true. Here's the thing. I went through a time where I didn't believe. I've gone through a time like that. And I felt like, what's the point of all this?
Existential crisis. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense.
Sure.
But I came back to God because I realized that no, there is a God. There is a creator. There is everything that we see in this world is done for purpose. The sun, the moon, everything has a purpose. The stars, everything, the water, everything has a purpose.
It sounds like you're saying you have no good reason, but it makes you feel good. Is that about right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, then.
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, then please tell me how you came from. I was questioning. Mm-hmm. It made me feel bad, and then I knew it was all true. Right? Is that how we learn anything? Is that how we got technology in 2019? I know it's true and therefore it is. With anything. Because if that's true, we don't have to have schools. Mm-hmm. We can just base everything on people's feelings.
It's not basing anything off of feelings.
Okay, then what is it based on?
That would be, there is rules. We weren't made to be perfect creatures, so obviously...
Wes, you need to prove that we were made to finish that sentence.
Yeah, if you want us to believe that.
Otherwise, you're just talking into the abyss.
Yeah.
Right? You're talking to us. We're asking you questions about it, so answer them.
Okay. All right. You want to know why I choose to believe, right? When...
No. I honestly, man, what I want to know is why I should believe. I want you to give me the evidence that convinced you. And then I want, along the way, I'd like you to kind of ask yourself, is the evidence that would convince Eric and Jamie the same as the evidence that would convince me? Right? That would be good. Have high standards for yourself.
Here's the thing. I want to ask you a question about atheism, though. We're not talking about atheism at all.
No, because we're asking you questions about this. Answer a few of them, and then you can ask us.
So we actually kind of are, Wes, just as an aside, because atheism is basically just saying, I don't believe that a God exists. And if we're talking about why you believe in a God and why we should believe in a God, we are, in a way, speaking about atheism.
In a way, but you're not dissecting it. Like, your whole community, everything is based upon not believing in God. But it's ironic because if you want to get rid of God, if you want to just no more God, then don't talk about God. But your whole entire atheism...
I would love to live in that world. The reason we have to talk about God is because religious people are shoving it down our throats every day and using it to justify hate and violence. Isn't that enough of a reason to talk about it? No? Yes?
I mean, if you want to get rid of God, just don't talk about God.
I agree, Wes. If we could all agree with it, I'll find a new hobby. But as long as people are going to justify hate and violence with their belief, we should talk about it. That's why we're here. If you're telling me I should shut up while other people talk about it and other people legislate away the rights of other human beings, no, we're not going to do that.
Okay, but here's the thing. You're using people and saying that's what God is. People were made perfect.
No.
We are...
No, hold on, Wes. Hold on, just as a quick distinction. Neither of us is saying God is people. What we are saying is there are people who believe in God, and that belief motivates their actions. And basically, the thing that motivates us to do this show is not specifically that we don't believe in a God, it's that we believe that critical thinking and scientific skepticism are better ways of understanding the world. And at the present moment, there are people that say, I believe in God, and therefore, this is what we should do. And one, I would say that's not a good reason to believe a thing. And two, in many cases, in the more dramatic cases, those actions have terrible, terrible, terrible consequences for the human race. I'm not specifically saying yours, but there are people that believe, everything that we're doing in the Middle East and Israel should be directed at bringing about the apocalypse, as predicted in the Bible. And while I'm not suggesting that that's your belief because I don't know what it is, I think that as a foreign policy, that's a really good way of starting wars and getting people killed and impeding world peace and impeding progress and impeding all these things. And I think that that is bad. And so my interest in current affairs, specifically how they affect...
I won't disagree.
I think that's good. I think you have a good conscience. And so that is the reason why we talk about these things, because they affect humans.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. I agree that, yes, religion, just like the Crusaders as well, it can be used in an evil way, but that's more. I'm not going to blame God for that because
why not?
That's people making choices.
Be clear, I'm not blaming God either.
No, I am. Hold on a second. No, hold on. If I'm buying into your mythology, your God gave every disease to every person, right? Mm-hmm. If I buy into your mythology, your God killed every single baby that has died prematurely, right? Your God created the nasty parasites that burrow into people's brains, right? I mean, your God is responsible, if that God is true, for all of it. Now, if you take our worldview, it would say, no, there is nothing. What?
Are you talking about what happened with Moses in Egypt? Is that what you're referring to?
No,
he's one
referring
of them.
Specifically to the fact that random, terrible shit happens all the time. And if there was a divine, benevolent, powerful creator...
then it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
That's not true. That's not true because here's the thing.
That's not true? Hold on. Okay, now hold on. We are going to go down a rabbit hole here, and I'm happy to go down with you on it. But I will tell you, Wes, that we are doing this for funsies because we don't accept your Bible as true at all. So if your aim is to convince us, don't go down this rabbit hole. If you want to try and use your own book to prove itself true, we can talk about it without opening it up. But if you want to go down this rabbit hole, that's fine, because there's a very strong case to show that your God, if that God existed and the Bible, accurately portrayed it, is an evil is real evil. But do you want to do that? I mean, really?
I mean, here's the thing. I understand where you're coming from. Just recently, what happened in New Zealand was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree.
And I understand it would be easy to say, well, if there's a God, why would this happen? Okay, men will do evil things.
Women too.
We have free will.
Gender non-binary.
Whatever we want to do. We don't have to follow God.
Okay, hold on a second.
So
hold on. I'm just going to go to the heaven analogy. I use it all the time, but it really works.
I was going to say hurricanes. We don't cause those, but heaven, yeah.
Yeah. So you believe in free will.
You know, the national disasters, natural.
All right, Wes.
Disasters, right?
Yeah, Wes. So do you believe in heaven? This is just a thought experiment to kind of break down the free will thing.
It's God's kingdom. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that there is free will in heaven?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Is there suffering, disease, hate, all that other stuff in heaven?
No, because there's not. There is hate. If you read the book of Enoch, one of the books I mentioned earlier that was taken out of the original Bible, it talks about hate that was in the Bible. When Lucifer, he decided, no, I have enough of God.
No, I'll give it to you. You don't need to justify it through some cryptic book. I'm not even going to. No, so I'm asking what you believe, right?
At least look at it, At least look at it.
No, show me why I should, and I will. Otherwise, no. It's going to go right on the shelf with The Secret. So, Wes, going back, because I care about what you believe, right? I'm talking to you, because what you believe is very different from what other people believe, right? I need to meet people where they're at, or we're talking past each other. So you're saying that there's free will in heaven. What about disease?
No, there's no disease in heaven.
Okay, what about breaking your bones? Broken arm, or brain cancer, some kind of cancer. Is that in heaven?
You said cancer, or like, what do you mean? You said breaking bones first. Do you mean like fighting, or like
no,
war?
just the ability to break an arm.
Someone trips down heaven stairs.
Yes or no? I'm just trying to flesh this out with you.
Well, there was war in heaven. There was war in heaven, so yeah, you can get hurt.
Okay, is there disease in heaven?
But I'm sure God would heal you.
Okay.
Is there disease? No. There wouldn't be disease.
Okay, what about cancer?
No.
Okay, let's go with those. Yeah, let's go with those, Wes. Hold on, let's go with those.
Okay.
So we've agreed, well, I don't agree, but you've stated that in the heaven that you believe in, there's free will, there's disease, there's cancer, right?
No, I said there's no cancer.
Oh, there's no cancer.
There's no disease.
So you're saying that your God can create a place where there's free will and no cancer and disease?
Yeah.
Okay, so why here on Earth?
Okay.
Yeah, why the hell would that God create such all of that if we can still make free choices other than being evil?
Has been corrupted, that's why.
No, you're okay.
No.
Yeah,
So-
this is a rabbit hole that just.
Yeah. So let me do this. So do you believe that?
Let's not go down a rabbit hole. I'm just saying that's what it is.
I think it's actually a good line to examine. I think of it as less of a rabbit hole than Eric does, but that's neither here nor there. What I will say is, so do you believe that there is some suffering in heaven?
No, I don't.
Okay, but falling down heaven stairs however, and people becoming injured, that is something that you believe occurs in heaven?
Falling down the stairs? Well,
I mean, not that literally, but
I'm on Earth right now.
okay. But so, well, here let's go back a little bit to basics so I can make sure that we're on the same page, because I don't want to, if you don't believe that one thing or another, I don't want to argue against that, because as Eric said, we're speaking specifically to you. So, do you believe that God?
I don't argue at all. I just want to have peaceful talk.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say the word argue as if this is a sort of aggressive back and forth. We're just trying to figure out what you believe and why, and specifically why we should believe it as well.
Okay.
Do you believe that God created human beings and loves them and wants what's best for them?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And God has created a place, heaven, where free will exists, and there isn't suffering.
Free will exists, but here's the thing: the angels were able to rebel.
Yes.
Okay, that's how Lucifer came to be. The devil. That's how it came to be. So, you can. Here's the thing: because it's free will, you could say there's suffering, because if war breaks out or if someone chooses to rebel.
Do you mean in heaven? Just to be clear?
Yeah, it's happened before.
So does that mean that there is cancer and disease and suffering? Because it sounds like you're talking about a pretty fallen heaven too.
Yeah.
But that's not the same thing, though.
Why not?
That's here on Earth.
Why?
On Earth, they have cancers and diseases.
Yeah.
That stuff that affects humans. That doesn't affect angels.
Why not?
That won't affect God. You got to remember the spirit.
Why?
An angel is a spirit.
Why?
You're thinking physical.
Wes,
You're
why?
thinking physical. You said why?
Yeah, why? Why does it affect? Why is that effect so different? It sounds like you're saying that, I mean, dude.
Beings won't affect the spiritual being.
Okay, beings won't affect spiritual. Okay, I'm kind of done with the. I want to kind of get back to why we should believe.
I think I just have one last point on this, which is if there is a place that is better than Earth, that is better for humans than Earth, and God wants what is best for Earth, and heaven is better than Earth, why would God ever create or put humans on Earth?
Because Earth was meant to be our paradise, but we fell.
Okay, so the story in the Garden of Eden, where a snake that was created by God corrupted Eve and led her astray.
But the snake had free will.
Yeah. Why would God create a creature? So if I had, this is sort of, we're all God's children. If I had godlike powers and I could ensure that a corrupting influence wouldn't happen, and I could be the sole source of inspiring my children to learn, that is what I would do. Why would God ever let something terrible like that happen?
Create a tree of life. Okay, here's the thing. If he didn't do that, then they would be pretty much robots.
No. So they would still have free will. You can create people with free will without
exactly.
Wes, Jamie's saying
so. God created the corrupting influence. Yeah. Why would God create the corrupting influence?
Because we need choices.
Bullshit.
So we can have choices without having a negative influence get us to make the wrong choice.
Well, he warned them first. He said,
he warned them about danger that he created for them. That is the story in the book.
Okay, he did it, and they did it anyways. But it shows that
it shows that your God created this fiction for himself, by himself, to entertain himself. Do you understand? Okay, so we're taking a whole lot based on your assumptions and what we're assuming about you, right? We're assuming that you think that this God that you believe in can do whatever they want and knows everything that's going to happen, regardless of free will. Is that true?
Yeah, God.
Okay, good. So moving forward, hold on, Wes. Let's follow this chain. Could your God have created a universe where the evil and suffering didn't happen, but free will still did?
The free will still did.
Yes.
There's no evil. There's no sin.
Yes.
No suffering.
Right. I mean, in the same way that when I wake up, I can, choose to have cereal or make toast or bacon and eggs, right? These are all choices that I'm making. And they're not going to, I can also choose to sit here and that works, but I don't have the free will to stand outside and fly around like Neo in the Matrix, right? I can't all of a sudden become the Hulk from Marvel Comics because that's a choice that I don't have, right? I cannot choose that. So obviously there's limits to free will. So you can't say, free will is just limitless. No, we're limited to the confines of the universe that we're in, right?
Well, we have free will, but free will doesn't mean we have superpowers.
Why not?
We're not.
But there are limits. There are things you cannot do with free will. Of course. So why would your God be such an asshole to create a universe intentionally with suffering?
Free will.
Why would your God create a place for suffering with suffering? I mean, that just sounds wicked and vile.
It wasn't meant to be like that.
No, it was. No. Hold on. You cannot have both. You can either say that God created everything and is that fucking evil, or you can say that God created everything and was so impotent and unknowing that they were unable to make the choice. Because if they could, they would, and if they couldn't, they wouldn't, right? You can't have both.
Okay. God is not evil. Okay?
No,
when he created us in his own image.
Yeah, no, I get the book, and I guess this is a rabbit hole that I'm kind of done with.
I mean, we can circle back, but I would, I think Eric is very much eager to circle back to
why do we believe what the hell you're saying?
As a quick aside, I would encourage you to read the book of Isaiah and what it says about the creation of evil. But in any case...
Well, and either way...
And in any case,
either way,
would like to
this is the same as me being a fan of World of Warcraft and talking about the difference between night elves and blood elves, or orcs and how they came about in the Draenei, right? Like, we can talk about, Lord of the Rings and the mythology, and I can absolutely hate Sauron and Sauron not exist.
We have the Silmarillion on the shelf.
Yeah. That said, Wes, hold on. Wes, that said, I'm not actually convinced that it exists. And you have not shown me any reason to think that yours exists either.
That's your choice.
No, it's not.
Hold on.
I do not get to choose between what is real and not real. I don't get to choose what I find and learn about the world, right?
You mentioned the Matrix earlier. Red pill, blue pill. You made a choice.
Oh, get out.
So, hold on.
Stop. People can lie to themselves. They can't choose to understand the nature of reality. Right? You use the best tools that you have available, Wes.
That's what life is.
So,
it's just a bunch of choices you make.
Yeah. So,
hey, we agree.
So, I think you're right. So, in just a moment, I think we're going to want to focus on why we should make the choice to believe in Jesus. But as a quick aside, are you a Redditor? Do you use Reddit at all? Because more in-depth conversations about heaven and hell and why God would do something are very much aided by being able to look up specific passages. And given that you two know the Bible better than I do, I feel excluded. So is that a conversation that we can have on Reddit?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, can I say this real quick? Hell was not made for humans originally. It was made for the angels who disobeyed him.
And in the same way, orcs are not from Azeroth. They came there. They're visitors.
Well, oh God.
Give me a reason to hold your mythology any higher than that. We can talk.
As the last quick aside, our Reddit is Reddit.
It's based off the Bible, by the way. Just so you know, Lord of the Rings is based off the Bible. So come on.
I mean, influenced by. I'm sure there are analogies there. I've heard those before.
It's funny because God, like I said, God's everywhere. He's in everything.
No. When you're talking about God, I'm assuming you mean the Jesus God. And when Christian authors write books, they often write it with the idea of God in mind. So I will agree with you that, in a sense, Christians are everywhere, in quotes, meaning hyperbolically. They're doing lots of stuff everywhere. But I don't see anything divine happening when a human being writes a fantasy novel. What I will say is our Reddit is Reddit/r/Talk Heathen. And I think that as far as the specific Bible parts, that's probably the better place for it. What we're trying to get back to, that I derailed a little bit, is why do you think that we should believe in God?
Here's the thing.
Best argument, Wes. Your last one.
I mean,
and I will tell you, I'm not going to try and give a got you. I'm going to hold up the Book of Eric, and I'm going to determine whether or not your argument can also make me God. Okay. Best argument.
Okay.
Go.
Sure. I mean, that'll be a lot of power to have. Good luck with that. Okay. Well, here's the thing.
I will do well. What can I say?
I can't force you to believe in anything. You're going to have to, like I said, that's going to be your decision. I can't make you say, hey, believe this. You have to believe this. I can't do that.
So
that's your choice. It's your, at the end of the day.
No, not true.
It's what you decide to do.
So as a quick aside, So as a quick aside,
just like Adam and Eve, they chose to disobey God.
Wes.
So we are familiar with the story. Wes, as a quick aside, our disagreement with that is based on the word choice as far as belief is applied. However, in the same way that I believe in your religion, God gives human beings reason to believe in him. Can you impart those reasons upon us?
Well, I just want to first say it's not a religion. This is my life. It's not. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not
so
part of,
as far as the religious beliefs go,
I'm a believer. Can I say this? And this might sound confusing, but I'm a believer, but I am not I don't want to say I'm not a Christian, but I'm a believer.
Wes?
If that makes sense.
I don't care. That's why we asked you about what you believe, not what other people believe.
So, yeah, it actually will probably come as good news to you. That doesn't confuse me at all. I have definitely one, probably two friends that could say basically that same sort of thing. What I'm saying is, do you believe that we should believe in God?
Should I say, should you believe in God? I'm saying it's your choice.
Okay, so
I mean, I want you to, but you're going to do what you want to do.
So this sounds kind of like a reason for you not to try and persuade us, right? Like, can you do that as a favor to me? Because I would very much like to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. And if there is a God, I would very much like to know that or have the evidence that a God exists, because that may very well change the way I live my life. Is that something that you can help me do?
Well, here's the thing. It's not about persuading. I'm not trying to, like...
Wes, really though, Wes?
or calling you into anything.
Wes,
I mean,
if you had irrefutable evidence, proof that you can lay at our feet, that we can investigate to our heart's content, that only pointed to one conclusion, and that is that the God that you believe in is true, would you make that same argument? Oh, it really doesn't matter. It's kind of what you choose. It's the same bullshit reason why people say, oh, well, God can't be tested by science. Well, you know what? The day science can test something about God, they're going to change their minds real fucking quick, aren't they? The fact is the preponderance of evidence about the universe that we're in, Wes.
do that.
Hold on.
We can't
Eric,
talk over each other.
Yeah,
I muted you.
Eric has put you on hold. You're still
you're still on the line.
Okay.
Wes, that's not how it works, buddy. That's not how any of this works. Come up with evidence that is convincing. Good evidence that points towards it. We will evaluate it because we care about learning what is true. The second you want to fall back on bullshit ideas that, it's just not testable this way. If it was testable, you'd be using it, wouldn't you? At least I could not imagine you not. Wes, I'm going to let you respond, and then we're going to move on to the next caller. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hey.
Yep, you're back. You're back on.
Hi. Oh, sorry.
Hi. Oh. No, we were just talking over each other, and it was not leading to productive conversation.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to talk over you. I apologize.
I'm not mad at all, man.
It's Eric's
okay.
fault, too.
Yeah, it's my fault, too, and that's kind of the nature of these discussions.
Yeah, he does it way less than I do, so the rare times where he does do it, I like to tattle.
Yeah, his eyeballs pop out. He's like, oh my gosh, now I'm justified. And I'm like, no, Jamie.
I don't say that. I do not commit to quote-unquote logical fallacy about breaking the rules.
Wes, go ahead, and then we're going to move on to the next caller. I'll let you end this out.
Okay. I just want to say, I can't persuade you to do anything. You know, you can do whatever you want. It's your choice. It's your life. Everything's a choice. It's not about being perfect. A lot of times when people think about God, they think of the people who have hurt them, like pastors, priests, or their mom or their dad, forcing them to go to church. You know, I didn't want to go to church, when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But as I got older, I understood why people went to church. I didn't understand why I had to read the Bible when I was younger. But now I understand, why I need to read it. I read the Bible in its entirety, and I would encourage people, or you guys, to read it in its entirety.
All right. We're giving you a closing statement, not a full, or else then we're going to want to respond and continue the conversation.
I already do.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Have a good rest of your day. You've been very respectful. You've been very kind, and especially I hope that in looking back at this, you recognize that I haven't been angry at you. In times that I've raised my voice, hasn't been that. I'm angry at the idea because that idea is what's used to perpetuate a lot of bad shit in the world that we're in, right? And because of that, I get upset. But at no point was I angry at you. Wes, I really do hope that you are able to go back and look at this and hold yourself to a higher standard.
And also,
because I think that upon reflection, you'll find that you have less reasons to hold up that belief than you think you do. And that's okay. Because if you want to learn as many true things as you can, then you have to be willing to throw away that which is not true. You take care, all right, buddy?
Actually, real quick before we drop you, I will say, this has been a really good call. I'm really glad that you called in. I think our audience is as well. I hope that this, hasn't been, incredibly frustrating. Right. I know Eric came on a little strong, but that's fine. And then also, if you can bring yourself to come to our Reddit and have deeper conversations about this, that would be amazing. Please do. Or at least join the Facebook chat.
Yeah, the ending of this call is taking too long. Take care, Wes. Bye. Okay.
Reddit.
Time to thank those patrons. And we do have a bunch of other callers. So Saad, Colton, Edmund, and Ron, we will talk to you. So stay on the freaking line. We've got lots more to go. We want to thank our number one patron, Neil. Thank you, Neil. Number 2, Nando Gonzalez. Woo. Austin Ploshnik. Lynette Ann Cross, and Joe Roll. Those are our top 5 patrons. If you'd like to become a patron, go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. And Colton in Connecticut, you're talking to Eric and Jamie.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
What would you like to talk about?
Jump right in? So I believe that there is a good reason I believe that there is an afterlife even without God. A secular afterlife kind of thing.
Like what?
And it basically comes to two premises, which I don't know if they're sound or unsound. I don't have evidence either way. So it's kind of like, but I believe these two, and therefore I think it's valid. So I'm just going to give a brief overview.
As a quick preamble, can you just give us a little bit of what you mean by a secular afterlife? I mean, I'm assuming you don't mean like magical zombies, but...
No, it's pretty much, so once, we die or whatever, our consciousness will pop up again, kind of a thing, but I don't know what form that would take.
Just really quickly, when you say it will pop up again, do you mean on Earth physically, or do you mean like in another realm or in a different place in our universe?
Again, it's more... so I'd say somewhere in the cosmos, but we might call that place Earth. We might call it not Earth.
Can we?
I don't know.
Can we get back to?
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. Let's. Oh, did you want to?
Yeah, I did. Okay. Colton, you said consciousness, right? The way I understand consciousness is it's my brain state that is completely dependent on the physical makeup of my brain, right? With a different brain, I would not be achieving the same brain state. With a damaged part of my brain, I would not be able to interact or even have the same personality. So when I consider consciousness, it is a very, very specific thing about my brain. And when I die, it is no longer in that brain state. And even then, that consciousness is gone. It's what's the term that I'm thinking of? An emergent property of having a brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the conclusion. It's just one of those cool things that happens when you have a brain like ours.
I agree with all of that.
So why? Well, actually, no, give us the argument. Maybe that'll explain it. Go ahead.
Okay. So the basic argument is like our universe exists. So there had to been, so in the cosmos, if the cosmos is in fact infinite and universes like ours, but not exactly like ours, can continue to pop up and then heat death infinitely, which is something I believe, but I don't have proof that that's true.
Okay. If that's the case, then I can absolutely see your argument. I just don't see anything pointing to that being the case. Well, so think about the infinite monkey thought experiment.
So, I mean...
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you live in an infinite set of universes, then this world could have popped into existence with the thoughts in our heads currently, and then we could live in a 5-minute old universe and just not know it. I mean, that's a cool thought, but what makes you think that the universe is infinite? I mean, you're coming up with conclusions that I don't think we have anything for.
As just a very, very quick aside, do you mean that in infinite universes, there will always be a version of the universe that includes a human being that we might identify as a different version of me?
Not exactly, but maybe.
So you mean like the consciousness of Jamie in universe C30 or whatever, when I die, would then move to a different place?
Yeah, that will be explained in the next premise, because it's how do we travel through time kind of a thing. Like every moment that passes, how do you get to the next moment? And
I'll say right now, Colton and Jamie, I'll entertain this, but I'm hung up on the first premise. Yeah. And because of that, I'm not able to come to a conclusion about it being true, because I don't feel like the first premise is fleshed out or justified sufficiently.
I'm also at the point where I don't know how the first premise connects to the second. So, can you finish the second
finish
premise?
it, but I'm probably going to sit out this one because I'm done. I'm done after that first premise. I don't think it's justified.
Okay. Well, so Colton, can you finish the second premise?
Okay, so the second premise is that how do we move from like one moment to the next? I'm defining a moment as the time it takes the speed of light to travel one Planck length kind of a thing. So think of those as like frames, kind of a thing.
Okay, so
and the way we travel from one.
You mean very small moments in time? I'm okay with that working definition for this conversation.
Yes. So basically, I think of the way we get from moment to moment is it's not our atoms physically travel to the next moment. It's more like in like a fourth dimensional view of it, our next moment has already been made with our brains in that moment and our brains having the thoughts and memories of all the moments happening before.
Okay, so I almost agree with you 100%. The first part that you said, where it's you don't believe that it is our atoms physically moving from one moment to moment. You believe it's a fourth dimensional movement. I agree. I think it's atoms. I don't know if the word moving is necessarily correct, but our atoms temporally, we'll say, moving from one moment to the next. The part where I have to, I don't even know if it's technically take issue, but ask a follow-up question is when you say the next moment has already been created, because has already are words that describe events within time. And I don't think that tomorrow has already happened as far as I can define it.
So the way I think about that is like time, charge, parity, symmetry kind of thing is once you know where everything is a deterministic universe kind of a thing. So whether we're going backwards
I'm
in time
double
or
out of
forward in
this.
time. Sorry.
No, I'm so sorry. I'm just jumping it like
one call, all for me.
Yeah, all Jamie. I'm also not a determinist.
Let's talk about parliamentary procedure.
Oh,
no,
please.
Okay.
You guys have fun.
So I will admit I'm less familiar with the specific term time, charge, symmetry. I think it was. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely gonna Google it in a bit, but so sorry. Is premise 2 sort of complete? Because it seems like you're saying that our atoms move through a fourth dimension, and that is their movement through time.
So the basic thing is, I don't think of it as movement at all. It would be, like different frames in the same movie kind of a thing.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. But so the way that my understanding as a non-cosmologist, non-PhD holder, non-professional in this field is that could be described as movement through a fourth dimension. Right, so 3 dimensions of space, 1 of time, 4-dimensional space-time.
Mm-hmm. But the point about it not being actual movement, but just being like frames is important, because if you cut up the frames of a film and you scatter them around and then you reorganize them so they're in the wrong order, the characters in that film still have the memories of all the frames that came before them, whether or not they're physically next to that previous frame.
What?
And that's how you get from different universes in the cosmos.
So here's what I will say is what you're describing is a perspective of our 4-dimensional world from either the 5th dimension, the 6th dimension, et cetera. And while I understand the concept, I'm not actually sure where cosmologists are on how much that exists. I think there's a popular or prevailing view of 10 dimensions in space-time, or not in space-time, but 10 dimensions. But I know exactly how far in the weeds we are. I've been this far in the weeds before, and we'll get back.
I usually pull you out of it, Jamie.
Yeah, but it's the caller. So neener, trump card.
No, because I can just caller.
No,
Then finish. We got other callers.
So yeah, we're coming up on the end of the show. But so the idea here, basically, I'm following you all the way up until a thing that could travel through the 5th dimension could travel from different points in space-time. The idea that the 5th dimension in our local universe would be connected to another instance of a universe within the cosmos is one that I'm not sure that I follow, and I'm also not persuaded that something like a consciousness exists separate than my brain. And I think that's where we would conclude. or at least where I would fall as far as the argument you've presented so far.
All right, Colton. Well, hope that helped.
Yeah. Additionally, again, there are going to be a lot more people that have spent a lot more time looking at this in the Talk Heathen Reddit/r/Talk Heathen. Please, I'd like to have this conversation because I know I'm going to end up having it again, and I'd like to have a more informed view. Is that something that I can persuade you to do?
Yes.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Talk to you then. Bye.
Because I know I can't persuade Eric to listen to that any longer.
No, because it was baseless. I mean, you're taking a whole bunch of assumptions and assertions that don't have evidence and don't have backup, and then you're making speculation based off of them. And even if those were true, if I were to create a robot that had consciousness and then copy that robot into another robot, that doesn't mean that I moved that robot's consciousness over to another. It means I made a copy of it. So no matter what, even in that assertion, if all of those things were true, which we have no evidence of, our consciousness still isn't going to go outside of our brain. It just means that in an infinite universe, if you give all of those other things, you might wind up with a copy, but that doesn't mean your consciousness moved at all.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm done. I'm so and not only that, but I felt so freaking uncomfortable moving forward, talking about the hypotheticals at that level.
Yeah.
That I felt like anything that I did other than trying to be honest with that was me talking out of my ass.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do, even though his first premise begins with if the cosmos is infinite, was to get to the point where I felt the argument was weakest, which was, well, then with a fifth dimension, consciousness could move from universe to universe. The dimensions are within a universe, and consciousness what?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
I mean, I don't even think you need to say the first thing. Just consciousness what? Move on.
Yeah.
It's otherwise it's just mental masturbation.
Well, it's
Saad in Pakistan.
I thought you were a fan of philosophy.
I am.
Okay, sorry.
But I'm also a fan of reality.
Saad in Pakistan.
You're talking to Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
Hi, Eric and Jamie. How are you?
Hey.
Marvelous.
Doing good. I want to know a little bit more about the reality that we're in. Maybe you can help us out. What would you like to talk about?
Well, first of all, I was recommended to this show by a friend of mine. And, well, the thing is that I have a lot of friends who are atheists. I was actually rooming. I lived with a person who was an atheist for 1 year in college. And interesting, at the time myself, I'm a Muslim, so I was learning I wasn't practicing a lot, but I was learning the Quran and everything. So, in my opinion, in my life experience, I've always felt like there is a God. It's hard to test these things in a test tube or a science lab or any of those things. A lot of people would tell you that it's blind faith.
Well,
I partially agree to it.
If everything was created by a divine creator, right, you would expect to have mountains of irrefutable evidence. Otherwise, that God doesn't want you to know about them or doesn't exist. And it's far more likely that God doesn't exist than stacking on attributes, right? What evidence do you have about God's existence?
Well, in my opinion, honestly speaking, it's the Quran.
Okay, why should I care about the Quran?
Well, you'll be speaking to a lot of Christians here. And believe me, if I get into a debate with Christian people, I out of their original sin doctrines and a whole bunch of stuff about, how there's one God and three persons. All those things we don't even believe in.
Yeah, the Trinity is silly.
We don't, and first of all, Quran pretty much gets straight to the point that there's only one God, and that's it. That He didn't have a son, or He was never born of anyone else either.
Okay. So why do you think that's true? And mind you, did you hear the part where I was talking about the Book of Eric earlier? Because I feel like this might come up.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to make that comparison if I need to.
I could make a book about myself and say I'm God too.
Exactly.
But then what? And then how am I God?
Exactly.
Then we can't do anything.
Exactly.
So
that's the point. It is just as useless until you actually can give evidence.
Yeah.
I'm doing it sarcastically, trying to prove a point that a lot of these arguments that get brought up about the existence of a God are just as nebulous as any other unproven, unsupported assertion. And so I'm using that as a shortcut to try and go, if that's true, then this is true, and this is obviously not true. So, moving from there. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. Have you? Okay. Let me ask you something. Have you read the Quran ever? Do you know the history of how it was compiled and how it was written and everything?
Not expertly.
No, and I don't care. Really, I can open a math book and not have to know the history of mathematics to understand and test whether or not math checks out. I really don't care. Tell me why it's true, or how to determine it's true.
Well, it was revealed to a prophet.
Don't care. Tell me how it's true.
You're good. You guys are good.
No, no. I'm honest. The thing is we've gone off into the weeds a couple times. Yeah. We're toward the end of the show. I have 2 more callers after you, and so I don't want to beat around the bush.
Eric is being very time sensitive. I hope that you don't interpret that as anger or impatience.
No. Well, I'm impatient, but it's not because of you. It's not anger at you. It's possibly anger at different ideas.
We are very glad you called. We do not get enough calls from Muslims, and therefore haven't done enough research. Well, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Thank you for calling.
Either it's true or not true.
Yeah.
Right. So you said that there's a prophet. You said that there's one God. I said that I'm God and that orcs made it to Azeroth. By the way, there was somebody in the live chat who said that orcs are tortured elves. That's in Lord of the Ring. That is not in World of Warcraft. Know your lore. So Saad, I don't care. Show me that it's true, and then I'll care, and then we can go into the details. How do you know it's true?
Well, let me tell you this much. There were a lot of scientific facts in the Quran itself that people never knew about 1,400 years ago.
Yeah, like what?
So, in fact, the Big Bang Theory, embryology, all of those things are...
Give me one example. Give me one example, and we'll move forward. Give me your best, because we don't have a lot of time.
Well, basically, I don't exactly remember the verses, but Google's your best friend. There's a certain part in the Quran that actually explains how, the Big Bang happened and how the world was created.
Really?
In fact, the whole process of embryology is even explained in the more Quranic style.
Is it hidden? Are people reading things into it? Or are you saying,
he's saying in the
that
Quranic
there is
style.
Scientific language that actually breaks down science the way we understand it, and we just didn't do anything about it for a couple thousand years till we figured it out otherwise?
There's a lot of scholarly texts that talk about all the scientific evidence in the Quran.
Oh, why do you need scholarly text? Read the Quran. Doesn't it say it, or do you have to interpret it?
It's the way the Quran is designed, honestly speaking, some things are very self-explanatory, some things you need to kind of interpret it because, so that's the beauty of the book itself.
That sounds like a shitty book. Why is it beautiful if it's not direct?
Well, I'll be honest with you, we humans have been, especially in Islam, Christianity calls everyone a born sinner, right? In fact, Islam says that the humans are the best of all creation. So if you're the best of all creation, we're smart. You really don't think we can understand these things? I mean, come on, we've gone to school, we've gone to college for all these years.
There are things that we still don't understand. Is that something that human beings still do not understand about the universe in which we live? I think that you and I think that the three of us can agree about that, presumably. Right?
Yeah, I'll tell you something. If you're saying, there's a lot of unresolved mysteries of the universe, and you, I want to know it too.
I think that's great. So here is where I would go with this. You have said that the Quran should be accepted as true because there are scientific facts in it. If I get a well-written science textbook, it has scientific facts in it. And some of those would lead me to believe that prophets being inspired is not a reasonable or realistic belief. Why should I believe this particular book with scientific facts as opposed to a different book with scientific facts?
Do you really think 1,400 years ago people were thinking about these things? Where else could that knowledge come from?
It can come from people who are reading their own conclusions into it. That's where.
Well, that's just your opinion, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not, Saad. It's just my opinion. Either it's true or not true, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that matter?
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, so next time when you call in, get a verse from the Quran. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a middle school down the street in Texas, and I'm going to copy a couple pages from a science textbook into the Book of Eric, and then I'm going to hold it up against your verse from the Quran and find out which one is clear and direct, because either people are reading things into it, or we take all the stuff that you're saying is true and that God is there and that God is just a poor communicator or doesn't want people to know or is hiding things in riddles or whatever. Either way, that doesn't say a whole lot about your God being good at communicating.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're not that smart.
I think we're smart enough to determine when a book has been created by a culture and we're trying to retrofit it into a time.
Into our current understanding of the universe. So I would say two things. One, I think we can have a little bit more time on this call. We're running short on time. I would like, as Eric referenced, for you to call back in. And again, I feel like I'm a broken record. The Reddit r/talk heathen is great because for something like the details of what's in the Quran, having those discussions online allows people to reference and look at the specific scholarly articles that you're talking about, which is something that we are going to have difficulty doing on the show. So even if you don't make it to the Reddit, hopefully you can call back in. But my last sort of question would be, do you believe that the Quran is perfect?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I understand about the Quran and the fact that it's written in Quranic Arabic, and that is sort of the basis for Arabic dialects the world over, one of the things I understand is that the grammar used is inconsistent. So if there were a perfect book, and if there were a book that you were looking at and someone said, this is written perfectly, and then when you were looking through that book, you found grammar errors, would that make you more or less likely to believe that that book was perfect?
Are you talking about the translation or are you talking about the actual Arabic?
The actual Arabic. So in the hypothetical, I shouldn't have brought up the Quran. In a hypothetical, I bring you a book and we'll say it's in English. And I say, this book is written perfectly. And you open it and you go, there's a grammar error right here. And I swear loudly and then call my publisher. Would you be more or less likely to believe the claim that that book that had a grammar error was perfect?
Well, maybe not in this case. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the same thing were shown to be true, maybe it is, maybe it isn't at this point. If the same thing were shown to be true about the Quran, would that cause you to think about the statement that the Quran is perfect and the perfect word of God?
I don't know about the grammar aspect of it because I myself can read Arabic, but I can't really understand it. I also read the translation because in Pakistan, the Urdu language is very similar to the Arabic language. Mm-hmm. And however, this uses the same script as well. But, if you ask any Pakistani in Texas, they'll probably tell you that they can't speak Arabic for the life of them, but they can understand, they can just recite it, like they can read it, but they can't speak or. So the way ever since I was young, I was growing up, we were supposed to learn it for the 5 times prayers and everything. So, and I've never encountered any such grammatical errors, and I'm the kind of guy who grew up literally questioning a whole bunch of things about Islam too. I grew up literally questioning people who thought they knew this stuff, but they didn't. I would ask them stupid questions. Excuse me. I would ask them questions like, there's certain Muslims who believe that pornography and music is not allowed in Islam, and I myself was a huge music fan growing up, still am. My favorite band is Def Leppard, by the way. So see, Muslims are cool too, by the way. Just letting you know.
No. I know.
Saad, I would have a beer with you.
I not only I don't know whether he thinks
you can have hookah with me. You can have hookah.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably he still considers alcohol to be.
I would have a beer near you.
Yeah.
You can have alcohol with me.
There we go. Sit back, listen to music, and we can argue about whether or not your Bible, your holy book is true.
What I will say is, just as a quick aside, because Eric is going to cut me off as I get into this last part, the Reddit and callback, but what I will say is, one, I can't blame you for not learning Arabic. Holy fuck. No regular verbs? Are you kidding me? Fuck. So sorry. So yeah, it's not an easy language to learn. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, given that you believe that the Quran is the perfect word of God, presumably you believe there are no grammatical errors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Presumably.
So that would be a sort of good thing for us to look at. There was something else I was going to say. I was going to ask the side question. Wait, what language are you referring to that uses the same script as Arabic?
Urdu.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day.
Yeah, Urdu, Persian. I think Urdu. Here's some trivia for you. Urdu is a mixture of Arabic and Persian and a whole bunch of other languages.
Okay. I thought that Farsi used a different script.
In Urdu. In fact, the word namaz, which means prayer, the salah prayer that Arabs say as salah, namaz is actually a Persian word. Roza, which means fasting, is a Persian word.
Okay. If I ask another question about language, Eric might stab me in the eye. But this is awesome. I don't think Eric's going to let me get away with asking you these questions next week on the show.
Our producer has trained us, and and we are already. Yeah. Over time, we want to get to the next two callers, and so I am fearing the lash right now. It is not Jamie's fault. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Things usually are my fault, so you can't be blamed for jumping to that conclusion. What I will say is, I hope that you call back next week, and please, even if you don't want to have discussions on the Reddit, email us because I have more questions.
Yeah, I should have brought Quranic evidence. Honestly speaking, that was that should have been something I did, but I probably overlooked it because I wasn't aware of what kind of questions you'll be asking me.
Yeah, and you know what? I can't blame you for not bringing citations.
Yeah, and I can't really say it myself. This is the verse, or this is the verse, because I'd be misquoting a religious book. Also, like I said, I've questioned a lot of things about a lot of so-called scholars to mention about this isn't allowed, this is not haram, this is haram. I would be totally anti-haram police in back home. In Pakistan.
Good
so I learned a lot of things. In fact, I learned a lot of things that music and pornography are actually all right. I learned through a professor of Islamic studies back in what we call O levels is what 11th grade is in America. Mm-hmm. So he taught me those things, and I was in fact, he told me that you really think I'm a fan of Aerosmith and Metallica? I was like, you're kidding me, because you'd never expect a religious person, a pious man, to listen to music like this.
So our producer is in our ear now a little bit.
And I actually have one thing really quickly for you, and that is when I was a believer. It was brought to my attention that if you look at the can of Monster energy drink, that the claw marks of the Monster, each individual claw mark looks like the Hebrew, the sixth letter in the Hebrew alphabet.
It's not that.
And because of that, it creates a 666, which is the sign of the devil, and therefore it is a veiled satanic message that if you're smart enough, you can get to understand.
And their motto is Unleash the Beast.
Yeah, they're Unleash the Beast. Do you think that sounds remotely plausible, or do you think that sounds silly?
It's a whole bunch of BS. It's like those people who saying that you can reverse songs, and California talked about Satan.
And it's exactly how I feel when I hear people talk about what is haram.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly how I feel when people say, "Ooh, I've found scientific evidence in the Quran."
In the Quran, yeah.
In the same way that they find satanic evidence on the can of Monster energy drink. But we're absolutely on the wire.
Take care, man.
Please, at the very, very least, call back next week. You can email us at mail@talkheathen.com or find us on Reddit at reddit.com/r/talkheathen.
Yep. Take care, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah,
Please.
finally, just want to say one thing to you guys. I myself am a seeker of knowledge, just like you guys.
Beautiful.
I really want to get to respect you guys. I didn't take any offense to whatever you guys said.
I appreciate you,
That's
man.
what I've
Thank
been
you.
raised to believe too. I've talked to a whole bunch of people. I've lived with an atheist person, so I know how it is. So I know all the arguments that you guys were going to bring to the table. But it's fun, honestly. You guys do a good job. So
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. All right, we do got to go. All right, bye.
Bye. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Edmund in Massachusetts.
How are you?
Hello. Good. We're short on time, and I feel really bad.
It says right here that you want to talk about the ways people suspend reason.
Yes.
Yes, that is true. So I was hoping you guys can help me out, flesh out an idea that can kind of been bothering me.
Let's get it in a nutshell so that we can try and get. Generally I want to kind of skip the lead up and get into the one time. It's nothing about Edmund. Edmund, I'm sure you're a wonderful person.
Sure. No worries. So first of all, I wanted to ask if we all agree that religiosity and belief in the supernatural, blah blah, is one of these human ideas that kind of suspend reason. It's a proposition that asks you first and foremost to suspend your logic and just turn off your brain.
In certain areas.
Agreement on that?
Yeah, I would say that in general, I find insufficient reasons and certainly insufficient evidence to conclude that the supernatural exists.
I mean, I've met plenty of religious people who, though they are heavily indoctrinated, are still able to use reason. So I wouldn't go so far as to say that it suspends reason everywhere.
But certainly
not everywhere, but for the specific concept of the existence of something something supernatural for that particular little corner. And then my follow-up question would be: should we try, as a society or a group of people, to minimize these ideas in our societies, or to try to minimize the propositions that lead to the suspense of reason? And what do you guys?
In general, I think that we should favor reasonableness over a lack of reasonableness, and that scientific skepticism is the best way to understand the world around us and come to beliefs that are more likely to be true.
All right. Good. So then that's kind of the point where my question that has been bothering me comes in. I would really appreciate if you guys can help me flesh it out. It's like the concept of monogamy and traditional binary families, that kind of idea that you shall love a person for the rest of your life and blah, 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 kind of has the same feeling, the same kind of colors, smells like religiosity and belief in the supernatural. And it's basically, to me, it has been this idea in my mind that it's kind of this one other example of human behavior that kind of requires you to turn off your reasoning and turn off your logic. And hence, kind of, if you put it in the Sam Harris kind of focus lens, it's not one of these things that helps us maximize well-being and, minimize unnecessary suffering. But regardless of all of these, everyone is, very normalized in accepting, you have your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Everyone will go on and build a binary family. Everyone gets married and gets congratulations. It doesn't go into the same level of scrutiny as we put, modern religions and pull out the bullshit. And it's kind of been bothering me, and I just wanted you guys to help me figure out where my fallacy is in that trail of reasoning.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you describe is that you are questioning social norms and mores, specifically with regard to lifelong committed monogamy to a specific person. And what I would say is placing that in the same category as believing in fairies is, I think, a miscategorization, because a belief in fairies is a statement about the way the world does work, with physics, et cetera, and a statement of you should get married and stay married for your entire life is a statement of what you should do, right? So in the same way that our culture teaches us to wipe our feet when we enter a building, modern American culture prevailingly supports monogamy as the norm. And what I would say is, if you have questions about whether or not aspects of culture are beneficial to human beings, that's certainly something that should be discussed. But claiming that it is false is a mistake because it's not a statement of fact. It's a statement of
I agree with you, and I always, try to massage what I'm thinking in order not to make that mistake. It's more kind of like you're thinking when I'm thinking all of the patterns that religiosity shows, like, it's everywhere. You go buy eggs and you see 500 churches, or you open a movie and you see God being called upon and whatever. It's kind of the same pattern. So I agree with you. I'm trying not to make the miscategorization, but I'm seeing, it walks like a duck. It walks like a duck.
So what
a duck in the end of the day? Maybe it's not a duck, but should we raise our level of awareness to the point of questioning, hey, the same kind of algorithm we're using to tear down all the bullshit with regards to religion, maybe we should use them here as well. Maybe there's something behind that particular duck.
I think that I can agree with you. I think that if you're saying that you see something similar in people that do not question their religious belief, or rather the act of not questioning your religious beliefs and the act of not questioning the social mores that you accept, I think I can agree with you that things that humans do and things that humans believe should be critically examined.
Right. And with specific focus on this, the monogamy kind of thing, with respect to, the thing that has been kind of stuck in my mind is this idea of we kind of left unaccounted the amount of suffering that goes into this idolization of a single person, also with respect to, interpersonal relationships like me and you, or even me, you, and the kids that are going to spring up from that relationship. Sure. Especially when I compare it in my mind with an alternative, I don't know. An alternative could be more community-based, where, the chances of you growing up with a shitty parent kind of get less and less the more people you have to identify as your parents. Kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a very raw idea in my mind.
There are a lot of very interesting points to examine about this. And let me tell you why this is a perfect discussion for our Reddit/r/talkheathen, because there is a lot of research into child development and best ways of raising children, etc. And those would be references that I would need to look at before I made a statement about nuclear families versus individual, I'm not a psychologist, certainly not a developmental one. And what I would say is, as far as your personal life goes, as long as everyone involved is informed and enthusiastically consents, go for it, man.
Well,
Additionally, I would point you to 2 shows that the ACA does produce: Parenting Beyond Belief and Secular Sexuality.
Secular Sexuality would be great for this.
Yeah.
All right.
But we've got our producer in our ear again. I think at this point he's just trying to see how fast we can go.
Take care, buddy.
One last question. Question, guys. Do you know any kind of atheist groups in Massachusetts? Because we're pretty dry up here.
Hey.
Ooh. Actually, we do have people reach out, and they do reach out on the Reddit.
Yeah.
Go to the Reddit.
Reach out on the Reddit and send us an email, and we'll see if we know anyone. Also, Google's great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Take care.
I feel like I just snarked someone. Yeah, and also Google's great for that. That was not my intent. But
the only thing that I would add to it is kind of a version of what you were saying at the very end. And that is that if people want a couple, then couple. I've learned more and more and more that it is more of a sociological imperative that I've learned, and that there are people who have happy, fulfilled relationships that are not monogamous, and I'm still learning about it. And I had a huge backlash myself. I didn't even realize that was something that I felt uncomfortable about until I approached it. And when I approached it, I went, holy crap, that's the same uncomfortable feeling when I realized that, holy crap. So I get it, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong. That just means that you might have a different opinion, or you might be less understanding of other people's opinions on it. And so it's worth opening up about, even if you still have the same conclusion that you want to have a monogamous relationship or, whatever else, but it does help. So
it doesn't mean you're wrong. It means that you shouldn't let an unspoken, unreasoned feeling determine what you do and what you believe.
Exactly. Ron in Florida. You're talking to Eric and Jamie. Thank you for waiting so long. How's it going?
Anytime. Hope you guys are doing well. I will make this quick so the producer is not yelling in your ears.
We wanted to make time for you while we could. We've got a couple minutes. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So I am sort of new on this atheistic journey, if you will. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends suggested to me going to a Universal Unitarian. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could call it a church.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
they consider themselves
Pentecostals don't call it a church, but
UUs call themselves.
Yeah.
I grew up Baptist, so in the end, you're not my denomination. You're probably not a church,
So yeah, well, yeah.
So your friend suggested you go to a Unitarian Universalist church.
Are you wondering if that's a good idea?
Well, yeah, I was wondering if that is, I guess, considered religious. Looking at the website for the particular one that's in my area, it talks about spiritual growth, and I'm kind of a little bit iffy. There are certain things for me right now that fall into the category of if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Holy moly! That's funny.
There's a lot of ducks on this episode.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I know how to define duck properly anymore.
So Ron,
I just wanted a little bit of advice with regards to that. Actually, can I give a quick shout out as well?
Yeah, go for it.
To the call screeners, because I actually had another question.
Yes.
Kelsey, you're amazing.
The call screener actually cleared another one up for me, so that will also help in preventing the producers from screaming in your ears.
Love it.
Yeah.
So
good to go. Just trying to find out about you.
No worries. Okay, so what I would say, geez, I'm picking it up from you. I never said what I would say until. Anyway, Ron, in my experience, UU churches have been a really fun, exciting place to go. You do not have to be specifically religious. And in fact, I've met plenty of atheists there. The thing is, I've met a lot of wooey atheists there. It's not necessarily a place where skepticism lives. It's a place where community, kindness, compassion are. And I would say that if that's what you have access to, then go get some community. But I would definitely warn you, be patient with the woo, because it is super real. That doesn't mean that they are bad or mean. It just means that they might have some pseudo-spiritual beliefs that don't necessarily hinge on a God. But, as far as I'm concerned, I think UU churches are a really nice place for people to get together, even if they aren't skeptics. It's nice.
So what I will say is,
in my experience, they could be different.
I'm pretty sure that they're not going to hate you, but I think when you go, you're going to think they're wrong. So as far as, man, I really want community. I don't know how active you were in your church or how much that made your social life and how much that's been impacted by you leaving the church. People go to UU churches, all the time for community. There's the infrastructure, there's the people there. If what you're looking for is other people and community, that's a place to find it. I would also encourage you to look for local secular groups in your area.
You guys both just hit the nail on the head for me. The thing the call centers helped me out with was I am looking for community and just some local support on this journey out of what I once believed, and it is the heavy thing in my mind right now is I was active in my church and that community is lacking, right? So part of it was trying to get some resources to find something local to me. And then also because of the suggestion of a friend of mine, I was looking at that more of a community thing. But then once I started kind of researching it a little bit and looking into it, I've got a daughter. So that was something that kind of gave me pause because I'm seeing these things that are kind of like, this might just be a different form of a church, if you will.
So, I've found a whole lot less bigotry
Well, I think is your concern indoctrination? And just sort of like
more so, trying to, one of the beneficial things that you guys have just talked about. So I've been listening to ACA stuff on YouTube for probably a good 3 weeks now. And
nice.
One of those things I have listened
like and subscribe.
to was Parenting Beyond Belief, right? Obviously, because I'm a parent. And a lot of that is just not wanting her life to start off with that indoctrination, if you will. So that's the thing that kind of gave me pause, and I was like, well, let me ask. Wouldn't hurt,
Sure. I definitely giving your daughter the best education possible and knowing all of the different things is fantastic. And I would say that you definitely don't want to insulate yourself from other opinions, especially when, if that is the best available, you don't want to push it away. But you do have great community that you can get online right here. And I wish you the best, man. And I love that you brought up Parenting Beyond Belief, because that is a show that not everybody knows about. Parenting Beyond Belief is an ACA production, and it has Claire Woolner, who's from Godless Bitches and who's also the president of Foundation Beyond Belief.
Yeah.
It has Dale McGowan, author of Parenting Beyond Belief, the book
that it's named after. Yeah.
It has Joy Heinrich, who also did a book about parenting. It's also Mandisa Thomas, founder and president of Black Nonbelievers, is often on and is one of the regular hosts that cycles through. Kendall Hopkins. It's a pretty star-studded cast. I really enjoy it. I wish more people got to find out about it. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I would say we got to wrap this up here. But what I would say is keep us updated, Ron. Send email to mail@talkheathen. I feel like that's more of a actually. If you're on Facebook at all or willing to tolerate having a Facebook at all, it's worth it to have the ACA Productions or Atheist Experience official discussion group. Just because that's. I mean, online community is not the same and it is not a replacement for it, but it can be very helpful because, oh my gosh, this person was trying to tell my daughter at the grocery store that everything was made by Jesus. Having, 10 people respond, yeah, I hate when that happens, is a really cathartic thing. And so I would encourage you to join that and keep us updated.
Cheers.
Indeed, we'll do it. I'm sure as I start to get involved with some of the local resources that the call screen helped me out with. We'll try and connect our area with you guys' organization as well to, try and grow it here locally as well.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
All right.
Chelsea, thank you so much for helping out.
Yeah.
Ron, take care. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all.
And
let's get some love rings. Eric's got some announcements to re-announce.
Over 1,000 people watching, 11:56.
Yes, and how many likes do we have?
236.
Wow.
I really love some subscribes. That would be nice.
I mean,
other than that,
I might like the way my voice sounds, but when I say like and subscribe, please do. It's very helpful, and more people will see us.
One more thing,
and it's free.
Caitlin Smart.
Yeah.
We saw you back in the hospital. We hope you get better. We're thinking about you. Come see us at American Atheist Convention.
Yeah.
And this next weekend, this is the last time people are going to be able to hear us say it. International Atheist Day, the 23rd, this upcoming Saturday. Get your butts to Austin. We're going to have a star-studded cast speaking at the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And after that, we're going to be going on to the speaker series and food, and it's just amazing. Yeah. So come on down. It's free. Just get down here. And Jamie, you ready? 2
locations, almost a dozen speakers, and you can bet that when I'm emceeing, I'm going to mention on that stage that if you don't believe, you should be able to find community everywhere, and you should recognize that the 23rd of March is an international day of solidarity.
Wear green. I know today's St. Patrick's Day, and we're wearing green.
Yeah.
But,
so it's international. There is the hardworking crew with the call screener and all the people that make this possible. We may talk and be on camera and under pressure, but they do harder work and more complicated work.
Damn straight. Love you guys.
And, we'll be there telling believers that we don't hate you, we just think you're wrong. I said all of it. Nothing for Eric.
If you do believe we don't hate you, we just think you're wrong. They love me more.
Oh, they never cut it fast enough.